Today I'm talking to Jeff Wilson of TTR, Sotheby's International Realty in Washington, D.C. Jeff is a top agent not only in the city, but all across the country. He's been a real estate agent for almost 30 years. He's known for his compelling marketing with taglines like eye candy for his listing campaigns. Today, he gives us an inside look at his marketing campaigns, what they are, and how he developed them. Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast is to share knowledge for realtors and raise awareness for Give Back Homes, where real estate professionals work together for social good. Jet Centers Aviation, Bentley Atlanta, Legends Global, thank you for your sponsorship. All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. And today we have Jeff Wilson returning from TTR, Sotheby's International Realty in Washington, D.C. And Jeff is so excited to have you back. He is frequently speaking for Sotheby's International Realty and other companies. He's on panels, and every time he speaks, I love it because, I don't know if you can tell, but Jeff's like 6.5 feet tall. How tall are you, Jeff?
This is like normal height, and this is where I am.
Right. So
6'6".
6.5 feet tall, 6'6", and he gets done speaking, and everybody runs and swarms, and there's Jeff, and all the agents are circling around him with 20 million questions. So everybody who loves Jeff and everybody who hasn't met Jeff, he's quite the treat, and we're going to get to learn from him today. First of all, for those of us, we're going to focus, I think with the direction we're going to take this is, we'll see where this goes, but we're probably going to hone in on the marketing that you do because it's so streamlined and creative and so different, but yet you're able to streamline it. But first, I wanted you to tell everybody who doesn't know you yet a little bit about yourself and how you got into this business.
Sure. I'll try and keep that short. It's not that interesting. I fell in almost by default. I didn't, frankly, know what else to do. I started selling real estate in 1988, basically when the stock market crashed. I had this great idea that I was going to become a major stockbroker, and that was a little hard when everyone was getting fired. So I was so tired of interviewing for all these brokerage jobs, and then they were hiring nobody, that I went into a real estate office, and basically I was breathing, and they said, "We want you." So that was a great start to my career, so to speak.
Wow, that's awesome. So you get into the career. So just to give us a little bit about how you became successful. How did that, and then that'll lead us into what you're good at now, but how did that go down? Like, was it an easy start? Was it difficult?
It took me a while. It was very difficult. I was very young when I started, literally 30 years ago. There weren't that many people that were doing it as their primary career. There were a lot of part-timers and a lot of second income earners. I mean, it was very rare to see a high-producing agent. And there were no assistants. There were no cell phones. There was not even the fax machine. Literally, there wasn't even the internet. I mean, this is back in the Stone Age.
Yeah, so tell us the Stone Ages. What year was that in the Stone Ages?
1988.
Oh my gosh, wow.
It doesn't sound like that long ago, but when it comes to technology. It is literally 50,000 years ago. So we had what were called dumb terminals in the office, which were our MLS computers, so to speak. The printouts came out on thermal paper. There were no photos. You literally had to go drive by houses and go inside to see them. You couldn't do anything other than that. And so at the time, we were gatekeepers of the information. The buyers out there did not have access to the same information we did. So that was very much our role, was to, quote unquote, find things for people. I think it was more about finding than specifically the process. The process used to be a lot more simple. Now it's incredibly complicated with 40 and 50 and 60-page agreements, laws to adhere to and disclosures, and there was none of that, literally none of that before. The contract was one page. So fast forward to now, we have monster-sized contracts, lots of things to discuss with our clients, things that they want to be aware of, aspects of their offer that they want to include.
Bring me a cup.
It's a much more procedural and advisory role that we play now, because just finding the property is only part of our job.
Exactly. So elaborate for me on, when I think in our business, this is a great topic, even though this isn't where we started, but I think for our listeners, our business started as we were a little bit more the gatekeepers.
Sure.
And we were more of showing, and we still are a little bit of that, but I think that with the way the business has transpired, people would assume that we have become less necessary, when actually, I think, as you were alluding to, we've become more necessary in our business because of that. So let's talk a little bit about that, which actually leads into, when we know what our value is, we then know what to market and how to market.
That's exactly right.
And your marketing is truly gorgeous and exceptional and unique.
Thank you.
So we're going to transition to that, but tell us, kind of elaborate a little bit on where you found your value as the market has changed and technology has come into play and all that good stuff.
So I think two things. One is that there's plenty of information out there. Buyers and sellers alike can go on Redfin, Zillow, Trulia. I'm not sure any other websites, but the big data aggregators, as I call them. And there is value in some of the data on there, but there can be a lot of confusion. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure that, any seller is necessarily willing to sell their home for the Zestimate. And I'm not really sure that any buyer is running out there with the Zestimate printed saying, this is my offer.
Exactly.
And so I think that it's easy to be confused by that, because it's a data point that's out there. And then ultimately our job is to make sense of that data, really looking more closely at the comps, the recent sales, the current competition, the trajectory of a particular neighborhood. Are things selling in multiple offers? So I view my job and our job as providing context to the data, is really making sense of all of those data points that are out there so that we can properly advise our clients. I think there's so many examples out there. And I know you told one, you had a property with two different addresses and the Zestimate was different on each one. Same thing with the house we just sold. The Zestimate was $2,012,000. It closed at $1,640,000.
Exactly.
So,
and then there's the negotiating process where, you've got a process where clients are trying to determine not just, okay, what is the property worth, but how do we get there with the seller, and how do we negotiate this transaction so that it's clearly, it can't be a fight, because that never goes anywhere good.
And, in certain market segments that we serve, the market's appreciating rapidly. There's a couple neighborhoods in Washington where the prices are between $1 million and $1.2 million. And if you don't have a $200,000 escalation clause, you are not buying a house. And there's no way that Zillow or Redfin or Trulia could ever give you that kind of data, but it's really taking a deep dive into the comps and looking at what they were listed for and what they sold for.
And help you decide if that's even and what's the approach, what's the strategy to take. So, and that depends on data and your situation.
Right. And talking to people. I mean, you can't just look at numbers. You also need to be in close contact with a listing agent in that scenario. So you see how many other offers that you're potentially up against, and that will help define your strategy.
So let's talk about, you've got two areas of real estate, I think, in our business, that we need to, it's hugely important that we're competent, obviously, but it's also hugely important that in an emotional process of buying a home, that we are also very, we don't only have confidence, but we have character, or things that people enjoy about us, because they're going to be spending time with us and they need to trust us. And as much as we might seem smart, if they don't know how much we care, it's hard for them to care how much we know. And I would, going into that, I see, or I want to let you elaborate, but a lot of your marketing, you're clearly competent in the gorgeous listings you have, but you've got some serious character. So you tell us, draw a picture of us first, of what your marketing campaign is now, and then I'm going to dig deep and ask you some questions about how you got there.
Sure. Well, there's different aspects to our marketing campaign, and I'll just kind of touch on the topics, and then we can dive into any one of them that seems of particular interest. One is the events that we host. Another is my ongoing touches by email. Another is direct and personal outreaches on the phone and in person. And then another kind of arm of my marketing campaign is marketing directly to agents that I meet at the Sotheby's events.
So basically, you've got agents, you've got the email, you've got the events, and you've got the direct touches.
Correct. And then I also have because we have a very popular luxury condo and penthouse website, we have a mailing campaign that goes along with that as well.
And you've got print mail.
Correct.
So, first question is, well, I'm going to brag on you a little bit. This guy has everybody does a lot of this stuff, right? But your emails come out and you have things like, instead of saying, look at what I have for sale in Washington, D.C., because that's what we all do, you're like, eye candy.
Yeah.
And then you bring some personality and some stories into your listings to get even me. I'm like, yeah, great. There's Jeff's email or so-and-so's email. But then your email comes through and there's a fun story behind it that engages me. And it engages me long enough to realize I might know somebody in DC that I really want you to meet because this is just cool marketing. And oh, by the way, also a transact, because our referral people aren't always, or people that might refer us aren't always thinking about the end in mind the way we are. They're just having fun and enjoying real estate. And if we can get them engaged that way, it's just going to generate more referrals. So that's an example of, and then these beautiful events that you have at your farm that also engage people. And then you've also got the cutest is on an email campaign. You've got four of my favorite things? Is that what
my 3 favorite things, right?
My 3 favorite things. So we were in Chicago. This was a few months ago on a panel for Sotheby's. And we're at lunch. And we're having Friley Saucier in Naples, Florida. We are having a big shout out to Friley, but we are having soup, or what is it? The tomato soup and grilled cheese.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh my gosh, this is it. Favorite thing, snap. I mean, for a real estate email, but that's building character, people getting to know you and who you are. So I want to know, which one's your favorite? And I want to hone into how you figured that one out.
Okay, well, let's just talk about the email because that's easy.
Do it. Love it.
Anyone can do that. It's basically free once you have kind of your template set up. And I've worked hard on my templates, and frankly, I want to redo them again to make them more beautiful and more clean. But so my email campaign is 3 emails a month, and most of my audiences get all 3. Mm-hmm. So I would consider my audiences kind of, well, I have 3 audiences. One are the people that have signed up for an account at my Life at the Top website. They get their own campaign. Well, if you want to discuss that, that's different. But my clients and the agents that I meet, they all go on my three email a month campaign. One is the Sotheby's piece. And I think we'd be absolutely remiss if we didn't stand shoulder to shoulder with Sotheby's. Sotheby's generates more amazing content than we could ever generate on our own. Talking about like Basquiat, breaking record auctions, Ferraris, Shirley Temple's jewels. I mean, just really cool stuff that frankly, we don't have to create ourselves, that it's just in our account. So I always want to send out a piece like that because it aligns me with the brand. And one of the things that was discussed in the report that was just put out through SIR, the new affluent, is that there needs to be a certain amount of entertainment value to the pieces that we send out. So I'm
the new affluent, by the way, everybody, is the new name for the millennials because apparently millennials don't like to be called millennials.
Right. Well, it's going to be the largest transfer of wealth in our history. So if we're not clear about what that audience wants, we are really missing the boat. Well so I want to be entertaining to them, and I want to show my competence and build my personal character within my own database. So one of those pieces, the Sotheby's piece, I consider kind of the entertainment piece. It's kind of like eye candy in many ways. The photos are stunning. The links go to amazing things that I could never come up with on my own. Mm-hmm. And my little trick to that is that I never in the subject line put, TTR Sotheby's like August 2018 newsletter. I mean, frankly, nobody wants their news from me. if they finally mildly entertaining, they might want some like titillation or some eye candy from me, but they don't want news from me. So I think the word newsletter and your subject line is the kiss of death.
It's well, newsletter says spam, delete me.
Exactly. So what I do is, frankly, I just pull up the content from the body of the email into the subject line. And I think in a way you're being more direct with your audience because they can scan the subject line and see if there's anything of interest in there. If there is, they'll click and they'll open it. If there's not, you give them the chance to delete it. But nonetheless, you've kind of aligned yourself with the three things that you're showing in your subject line, like Ferrari and Tiffany and Basquiat and Andy Warhol and all that stuff that, frankly, on my own, I would never have access to.
Well, I would say, so someone listening to you might say, but why wouldn't you want them to open the email and not give them the chance to delete it? And I would say, if they open it enough times and it's not of interest, they're not going to pay attention to your email anymore. Whereas if they see it, say that again.
They're going to delete you.
Yeah,
I mean, frankly,
exactly.
I don't want to be deleted. My open rates are through the roof. I have sometimes 70 and 80% open rates on my emails, which I think if you talk to an email marketer, they would just be, their mind would explode.
Well, do you know what the average? I mean, the average is low. I think it's like 20.
Like 3%. Yeah.
What is it? 20%?
I think it's lower than that.
Like 5.
Yeah.
I think some people send them just so you can see your name and their email. But if people are actually engaging with it, and I love the rising affluent, what you said about that. That's so, so important. It's the entertainment.
It's very important. You need to be a bit of an entertainer, but you also need to have content in there. So I consider the Sotheby's piece the entertainment. Then my next piece, I call it real estate eye candy. And it's really just kind of a summary of the new listings that we have and the properties that have gone under contract and those that have closed. And we don't necessarily put everything on there. I don't want my clients to, feel bombarded. But the thing that we do is we put it in one piece. Like you'll never see from me every open house, every price reduction, every new listing. I mean, that's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. And especially if you're an agent in another market, you don't need to know my business that intimately. I've just become annoying to you, in my opinion. And I also think our clients are that way. Our clients don't need 15 emails from us like, oh, I just listed, I just sold, here's a price.
That's a good way to get for them to ask you to leave them alone and take you off their email list.
It's too much, I think. So, my real estate eye candy piece is to show my competence. So that in a very graphically pleasing piece, they can see my new listings. There's one photo, like 0 copy. There's just a headline on each thing. So if they're interested in a Calorama row house for $3.995, they'll click it. If they're not, they won't. But the next one is, just closed, city center condo $695. So if that's more what they're interested in, it's just very clear what it is. They can click on that. So the goal of that is to show my
all in one email. Yeah.
All in one email. And it only is once a month. But I want them to know that I'm still working.
So eye candy goes out once a month.
Correct.
Right? So you've got eye candy going out once a month. I'm sorry. They meant 3 favorite things. Eye candy goes out once a month. And 3 favorite things also goes out once a month.
3 favorite things also goes out once a month, and that's just showing my character. So I want to build competence, and I want to show them my character. So my character, to me, is what do I like?
Right.
Again, they may not like what I like, but I'm showing them what I like. So
you're sharing yourself with them, and you're doing it in a really
time I have a moment,
really cute way.
I love this, like our grilled cheese and tomato soup at the Ralph Lauren restaurant.
You get so excited. Like, how can everybody else? I just get I may not like what you like, but I'm just so excited in the way that because here's another thing about your character piece, everybody, is we're building character pieces like that. For those people who are like, well, I'm not into that, whatever, who cares? I just want to, I'm a data person. Well, a character piece like that is framing the way in which your ability to market in general and how clever and creative you are. And in your character piece, you're also expressing additional competence. So pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, I just want to show people what I like. It's pretty easy. I have these aha moments where I love something. And the minute I love something, I usually take a picture of it almost as a placeholder and I email it to my virtual assistant. She keeps a list for me. And then every month I just pick 3 and then we work on the copy and work on the images and it just shows people what I like. And what I did recently was I did, right before the holidays, I said, not just my 3 favorite things. I called it My Favorite Things Holiday Gift Guide. And I put all kinds of stuff on.
Now that's something people can look at because everybody's trying to figure out what to give all the time. Do it in the there's so many fun things like doing that in the holidays. My 3 favorite quotes. One's on, 3 different topics. My 3 favorite things about, whatever neighborhood you specialize in, or my favorite things about contemporary homes, if that's what your focus is and what you specialize in. My favorite things about, properties in Tuxedo Park in Atlanta or whatever it might be, or my 3 favorite properties. The list goes on of all the fun things we can do. So now I think you have 3 emails that go out, right? So you've given us the first 2. What's the other one? Is that
it's the Sotheby's piece.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Eye candy. And 3 things.
Yes. Just kidding. Apparently I wasn't listening as well as I thought I was. I remember now. So in the people that receive all 3 of those emails are agents that you meet, people in your sphere, and the people that sign up on your website, Life at the Top.
Correct. Well, the Life at the Top, they get a slightly different piece. They get the DC condo update, and it's all the different buildings that had the highest sales, the highest listings, most number of properties sold, highest price per square foot, that type of thing. So that's more data driven to them.
Now, the other thing, so right now I think we're discussing obviously your email marketing, and you've got to get that streamlined. How do you streamline that, and how do you do? That's a lot of content and a lot of emails going out. So how do you get that done and sell houses?
My virtual assistant, I work on the content for that. So it does take a little time. I know there's a lot of agents out there that want content just dumped into their accounts and they don't want to really do much with it. I will argue that the Sotheby's piece is that I don't have to do anything with that piece. I change the headline, the subject line of the email, and that just gets sent without a lot of fuss or muss. The other 2 pieces, because we've got our format down, it probably takes me about half an hour for each piece each month. So I'm spending about an hour.
So for the Sotheby's listeners, that's Resora, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Okay. So we've got about 12 more minutes until you've got to go. He's got to go on a second viewing on a big property in DC.
I've got a few minutes. I can stay for 30 if you need me that long.
Oh, good. Well, let's see what happens. So we're going. So we've got enough time. So email, I'd love to hit on. So you've got really, 5 things you're doing. We've really gotten it wrapped around on what you're doing for the email. One last question on the email. You've got a virtual assistant. Is this somebody you found on like Upwork.com, or is this somebody that you found through another agent, or how do you find
your referral?
Okay.
I took a marketing class to develop a website many years ago, and they referred to me all of their people that they would have me use, my copywriter, a virtual assistant to get a lot of the stuff done behind the scenes on the website. When my most recent virtual assistant that was geared mainly toward the website retired, the person who was doing that same role for this training company was referred to me. So she knew exactly.
So for somebody who's looking for a virtual assistant to take over this stuff, obviously a lot of the Sotheby's offices have people in marketing that do these things for us. A lot of people don't want to use someone independent. And then a lot of you guys with other companies, you may have office support, or how would you recommend if you didn't have somebody?
I would definitely go to Upwork or Elance or something like that and do a job posting. This stuff is pretty basic, to be honest with you. I'm just so particular that I know how I want things to look. And if they can make changes for me and give me the format that I want, that's great. I'm actually tasking kind of a real graphic designer with reimagining this piece altogether because I want it to be even prettier.
I love it. That's the perfectionist in you, which is part of what makes your marketing so fabulous.
Cost me a lot of money, but it's I think that people pay attention to not only what you do, but how you do it.
It's an example. Well, it's an example of your standard of how you do business, depending on how you do your marketing.
Certainly, it's going to be how you treat their transaction or the marketing of their property, and you set the tone. I mean, I see things come across my email all the time. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Exactly. The other day, this broker's open announcement came over. There was no address. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You're telling people to come to this house. There's no address.
And there's no address. That happens a lot.
And well,
I've got a lot of those.
Little mistakes here and there, but that's kind of a big one. So I wrote them back, what's the address? And then I realized again, like,
wrote them that.
There's no price. Like, I actually had a client I was going to send it to because I thought, well, this could be a good house for you. But then I'm like, what's the price? Is this $1 million? Is this $1.6 million? I kind of need to know the price.
Details, big and small, all of them are important. So we've got the email campaign. The other thing is your mailing campaign. You've got your mailing campaign. Is that only off of your website, or do you have any other mailing campaigns?
Basically, so I have my 100 top clients in my database. They get one piece in the mail from me every month. That's just gone out like clockwork, probably.
So you do that to top 100?
Yes.
Okay.
So they get a piece of mail from me once a month. It's usually just a piece about like protecting your credit or avoiding identity theft or preparing for a move. It balances between like more professional stuff and more personal stuff, but personal to them, not something specifically that I'm passionate about. So I'd say that the consistency of that is probably where I get the most return for my money. But my very, very top clients, I treat very differently. I know all of their birthdays. I know all of their anniversaries. I have them on speed dial. I check in with them regularly. And my goal is to add value to their lives. And I think it's very much the go-giver mentality. If you're really giving, and you're really paying attention to people, which most of us tend not to do these days. And I think the real challenge is that even with all this email that I send to people, you can easily miss somebody. You can easily miss somebody planning to move. You can easily miss a moment to be of service to people. And so, like, I don't want to hide behind an email campaign and just say, I'm so fabulous. Look at the 3 emails I send every month, and now my clients are transacting.
And the grilled cheese that I love, right?
Right. So,
you said you hone in on your top people. How many of those are there?
20.
Now, do there happen to be 20 people, or have you been very strategic in selecting 20 people?
I really want to just keep it at 20. I suppose if I had 5 more unbelievable people, then it would grow to 25. But, I had lunch with one of them today. He invited me to lunch, and he was telling me about all the different things that he's doing. And so I asked him, well, where else do you own property? Which is my lead-in question
like
for
Atlanta?
Referral.
Right.
Where else do you own property? And he started listing things off.
Well, okay. So I love that, because that takes us into another of your categories, relationships with other real estate agents. And for you too, for me, that is not just across the country and even the world, but within the city of Atlanta. But tell me about your relationships with other agents. And because most people think, oh, it's a cutthroat, for those of us who haven't been in the business long, it's so cutthroat. It's just competition. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say I used to think a little bit that way, and I'm just so the opposite now. Right. It could be anything but, and my favorite people are real estate agents in the world. They really are. But that being said, what is your real estate agent pocket of developing business?
Right. So, I mean, I've met quite a few agents over the years through different training that I've been to, and they're not specifically Sotheby's agents. And I would be happy to refer to them if they were in a market where I didn't have like my trusted person. But what I've really enjoyed doing lately, and I mean lately, just the last couple of years since I've been with Sotheby's, is going to different Sotheby's events. The global networking event was insane. You and I were like running around that place. We were like chickens with our heads
exactly. Well, we met at a local one at a Miami event. But yes,
yeah, we met at the one. I'll be there in the next couple of weeks.
I'll be there with you.
Good. That's right. We met at the one.
Yes, and that's where we met.
Right. So look at the relationship that's been born of that. So I think that especially within the Sotheby's network, and this may be true for other companies as well, I really make it a point to show up. I'm somebody that I really want to get to know people. I want to meet the key people in other markets, and I want to try and add value to them. And the way I add value to them is I will do my best to send them referrals, whether it's my personal referral or somebody I know, meaning another agent.
That's key.
I try to position myself as a connected person within the Sotheby's network. So, I see these requests come over. Well, who do you know in? And I'm immediately sending it off to somebody I know, so that, I'm not taking anything from that. I'm just being the connector. So I want to get to know people so I can connect them better. Exactly. Just for the sheer pleasure of doing it, understanding that eventually something will come back to me if somebody then has a need for somebody in DC. And it's been remarkable. I would say what I would call the random referrals that have come from people that I've met that have referred me to somebody else that they know that needs help in DC. So, I mean, I've got a $7.5 million buyer right now just because I met somebody and they knew somebody in their office that needed somebody in DC. So these things happen routinely, and it's shocking to me, but they're not going to happen if I'm not out there.
Well, for me, is you're coming from a place in the way you do business of delivering value. You deliver value, and when you're valuable, the more value you are as a human, the more what is the saying? Is it, I can't remember his name, not Tony Robbins, but the Jim Rohn said a saying, but he says success is just looking for a good place to land.
Yeah. Or I worked very hard to get this lucky.
Exactly. Exactly. So I love that.
I've been going to Sotheby's events. I just came back from Montana. I went to the Ski NE. Got to hang out with a whole bunch of great people there. That was really, really fun. And before that, I was in Chicago. I went to their holiday party of all things, and
fun,
and hung out with them. And I was invited down to Richmond, and I went and talked to the agents there, also in Charlottesville. And I was in Florida, and I'm going back to Florida. This is a real network that you can do well in, as long as you go and you meet people and you try and be a connector.
Engage. Right. And I think the key is, because you and I clearly love agents and have developed some strong networks within our company and not just the company, but with agents around the country, is that, people always ask me, like, how do we get a G&E and everybody knows you? And because I'm not going around, believe it or not, talking about me, but I'm so fascinated with everybody else in real estate agents and how we're all successful, and expressing an interest in them and what I can do for them. And that's where relationships start.
Key. If you're running around saying, refer me, I mean, there's conferences, not Sotheby's conferences, but other conferences where I know people and I know what's coming my way. They're just like going to tackle you and feed you like 10 business cards, and you're like, back up.
Stop. And all it does is it's kind of a repellent for us. Oh,
absolutely. I avoid them like the plague.
And it's important to keep in mind, like, also think about the same way we develop relationships with agents, we need to develop relationships with potential clients and potential referral sources. I always say in our business, you first don't look for the business. When you engage with someone, or when you're looking to get engaged, first look at two things: the value you have to offer, and anything you're doing, it's to be noticed and appreciated. Then you'll generate referrals, then you generate loyalty, and then that person becomes your client. But if you just go after somebody to be your client, that's the worst way to get a client. Because you never want to set up a situation in which there's obligation. When you're delivering value, people will hire you for it.
Right. I think it's the go-giver mentality.
Exactly.
Is the killer with that. And I listened to the book on my way to Chicago, and I really am focused on giving, just giving, adding value, being a friend, lending an ear. I mean, the other night I was at a fundraiser, and I could tell that this woman was kind of going through a patch, and I said, come over here with my finger. And I'm like, what's going on? Because I saw her, I wasn't just like, oh, you look fabulous, like pass an hors d'oeuvre, I'm like, what's going on with you? And I really talked to her. And in 2 minutes, she was in tears. And then her husband came over and gave me a big hug. And I ended up out to dinner with them. I think my value in that moment was frankly just seeing them and being real with them. And our friendship is deepened for that. Now, did I get a referral out of it? No, but I'm probably held in higher esteem with them just because I was real.
Exactly.
And I think it's probably one of the basis of my marketing campaign to every audience that I may have is just authenticity.
Yes.
I want you to know what I'm passionate about. I want you to know what I'm good at. I want you to know where I can help.
Yeah.
And if you know that, you know me. And if I'm not a good fit for you, that's okay too. There
are enough people who need you when you have that kind of value.
Exactly. So I think the more we lean into being authentic and looking for ways to help people, it just feels good in general. You go to bed happy every day, and the world just reciprocates in unbelievable abundance.
Exactly. So we've touched on, I'm going to run over. I'm going to review. We've got your marketing touches on agents. It's your email campaign. We've covered both of those. You've got a mailing campaign, which we've talked about that. And then you've got events and direct touches. I want to end with direct touches. So tell us about the events.
Okay. So the events, we run them from small to large. I don't want them to get too large because I actually calculate, okay, if this event is 3 hours and we have 90 people, and I can't do the math so fast, but I figured out that there were some where I had basically 45 seconds per person. And literally, if I...
Did you take your timer for every person?
Basically, it was going in my head. It was going in my head because I knew that if I stayed and talked to somebody for
That's
1.5
great, though, because then you
minutes,
can touch everybody. Yeah.
There was a whole other person that I wasn't even going to get to say hello to. Yeah. So I tend not to like that as much, but I think it's a bit necessary to bring a bunch of people together occasionally. So some of the events that we've done and continue to do, we did a restaurant buyout at a really cool restaurant where people couldn't get a reservation. So we bought the whole thing out, basically said, here's your reservation, come have dinner with us. And it was a very hip happening place. It wasn't like all stuffy. It was literally in the basement of this row house, but it was so cool that it didn't even have a sign on it.
Well, and you're the connector. I mean, that just shows your connection. Like everybody, especially in luxury real estate, needs a real estate agent who's connected. Bam, done. And it was an experience.
One of the other things that was mentioned in the handbook or report or whatever it's called is that people are looking for experiences. So I want to provide a certain level of entertainment.
Yes.
I certainly want to show my competence, but I want to provide access to experiences that they either wouldn't have on their own or might not think to do on their own. So the Little Comey buyout was an absolute smash hit. I mean, it was so cool.
Well, it makes me think about, we all know Stacey Jones, the owner of Realty, Realogix. I always call it the wrong name. Thank you so much, Stacey. Forgive me. Isaac edited it out. And if he doesn't, everybody laugh. So anyway, Stacey, she's one of the owners there. She said something to me a while back. She said, and this is from an authentic place. If anybody knows this woman has the biggest heart of anybody maybe I've ever met. But great. When you engage with people, like you put a memory print on them. And when you put a memory print, look, she's put some on me and what she's shown me in this business, but it's like they never forget that. And It's not just about, okay, we're going to win the business. It's also about like that value and that quality of life. And we are so lucky that we're in a business that we can enhance our quality of life if we just open our eyes. And back to the go-giver, I think the last one, the go-giver talks about you've got to be willing to receive the gifts. Like all of us have gifts in this life, and if we can stop complaining and open our eyes and see what they are and receive them, like the biggest opportunities are usually right under our nose. They're usually right there in front of you if you just open your eyes to receive it. So I'm going to get off of my soapbox on that, but you inspired me to go there. But all of that is to wrap right back around to these events that you do.
So that's one we've done. Another popular one that we've done, and this is for a smaller group because it's pretty expensive, is we have a house out in the Virginia countryside. So we do a big party wrapped around the Virginia Gold Cup. It's a steeplechase race. It's very fancy. All of the big horses and the big cars and the big hats and the big outfits and everything are hanging out on Members Hill. And so we have a prime spot on Members Hill where we overlook the whole race course and, like 2 big tables of white linens and polished silver and, great outfits. And we invite our clients to come experience that. We send off race day tickets. We do parking.
Now, how many? Oh, no, go ahead.
And we invite them back to our house for dessert and coffee afterwards. So they get to step inside my world a little bit more, knowing that, it's not a free-for-all for 1,000 people. We only have about 40 people at that event.
And how many do you invite? So you have 40 people come. So that's 20 couples.
Right.
And how many people do you invite, or how many
generally
couples?
Invite about 100, understanding that it's a Saturday afternoon and that's a hard time to get most.
Exactly.
And then they have to be willing to drive an hour outside of DC. So, it definitely hones the guest list down. But
what an experience!
Last time we did it was in the rain, and everybody who showed up was like, they were primed to be there. We had like 50 Sotheby's umbrellas. There was this sea of blue and white standing on the hillside, and everyone had a great time.
Wow. And talk about like aligning with the brand. I mean, you get the Sotheby's umbrellas out there, and that's really because the key to that.
That was my favorite part.
There's the memory print. And then there's the, people are like, oh, but you want to be your own brand. Well, yes, but when your brand is aligned and when people see a Sotheby's sign or the Sotheby's name, which is huge, and you have positioned yourself so that the people closest to you see that and think of you, think of the power in that. Again, everybody who's not at Sotheby's, it's a Sotheby's example. There's also other examples that you guys can do with your companies and other alignments. There's other brands that we all align with. For example, I align with Mercedes and a diamond broker and some different things like that I've done with events. So the last one is direct touches. I'm going to review one more time for everybody. Agents, the agent networking, or the marketing through agents, the marketing through emails, through events, through your mailing campaign. Yours is through your website, the people registering on your website. And then the last one is your direct touches. So tell us about your direct touches.
I mean, a direct touch to me is just truly reaching out to somebody, and probably not somebody that hasn't heard from you for 7 years. Mm-hmm. These are the people that are actually reaching out to you, and you reach back out to them. I mean, not that it takes them to start the contact, but who your best people are, and really just paying attention to them. Like the woman who ended up crying at the fundraiser the other night, like she's one of my best people. I can ask her, like, come over here, what's going on? And she'll be honest with me. So I think it's really just taking the time to see people and to reach out to them and to see what's going on with them. I mean, frankly, Facebook is a great way to stay in touch with people, meaning more so than just posting on their wall, which I find a little weird. But, you can make a list, not a group. If you add somebody to a group, I notify that you're on that group. Like Jeff's best client list, like Jere Metcalf's going to get a notice that you're on Jeff's best client list, and you may go, what the heck is that? That's kind of weird. But you can make a list in Facebook, which is basically your way of organizing people, and it doesn't send a notice to them or anything. And I can go to my best client list and click that, and it gives me a news feed of just their stuff. So if you want to know what's going on.
And that's where you can, I think you go into each person, you can create a category of contacts. Is that how you do that?
Correct. But you can add them to a list.
Okay.
So create a list that's Jeff's best clients. And I can
love that. I haven't done that. That's great.
And then I can watch their news feed just by clicking on that link. And it gives me literally all the updates of the people on that list only. It gets rid of all the noise and the clutter of Facebook.
So the people who you really want to see. And does it take out the sponsored stuff, or does it leave it in there when you go down that list?
No, it's all there, but you still see just your people, right? So the point of that is I want to pay attention to people. So if somebody has a baby, they're certainly going to post that. Or if somebody
and you don't miss it.
Goes off to college, it gives you an opportunity to really reach out to them personally. I mean, I took my birthday off of Facebook just because I think the world is moving, and this is kind of like the problem with the email campaign. We all want to
Jeff, I like to have 300 happy birthday wishes on my birthday. Seriously, but that's for another day. So go ahead.
I don't like that.
I love it. I'm like, I don't care if it's because they sell. I like whatever. I like to I still feel special. But back to you. That's not even the point.
Then I'm like, wait a minute, you just blocked all my stuff. Nobody's going to see my stuff that I posted because now there's 350 comments, and then some people get down to the very personal message, HBD. Happy birthday.
Oh, yeah.
They can't even bother typing it out. It's just HBD. I'm like, oh, my heart is overflowing with all these personal.
I don't remember my HBDs. I mean, maybe I just was counting how many I got because I'm like that. I don't know.
I finally took it off just because I'm like, what? I really don't want that clogging my fabulous content that I put up there.
I'm going to see this all differently now. I'm not sure what to think on my birthday anymore.
Everyone gets to have it the way they want. So that's perfectly fine. But right. I don't care for that. I don't like the embossed Christmas card, like from a home inspection company that's got all this scribble over it. Like their 9 employees signed it. Like their 9 employees don't even know who I am.
Note to self, get Jeff's birthday because I don't want to miss it. Okay. So I'm getting way off topic here. So but I love that the list on the personal touch, on personal touches, things to keep you directly engaged with your clients is the tools in Facebook.
Right, and ultimately, if you're really in touch with them, you know what's going on anyway. Mm-hmm. You start to if you have a good enough.
You got to be in the habit though, and these are things that will keep you in the habit. It's so easy to get pulled away into the urgent things right now, or trying to get that mass email together. That doesn't matter nearly as much as engaging with people one-on-one.
Most of your business is going to come from your top 5, top 10, top 20. So I think we are.
Say that again. Actually, will you say that sentence one more time?
Most of your business is going to come from your top 5, your top 10, or your top 20.
So huge to remember.
Right.
Thank you.
And so I get worked up over LinkedIn or Facebook or mailing campaigns or all that other stuff. I can spend so much time on that. And if I abandon my top relationships, then I'm shorting them because I think that I can actually be of value to them. And I'm shorting myself because I don't give them the opportunity to engage me and to reciprocate. So I think that is, of all the things that we've spoken about in terms of a marketing plan, you can systematize caring. You can put them into a customer relationship manager or client relationship manager, whichever one you use, and put a 30-day follow-up. Every month you should be in touch with that person. And so do I fall short of that? Of course I do. Like, I don't want to sit here and say that I'm the ultimate and I'm perfect and make a mistake. But I really am very clear about that and trying to add value to people. And I think that so many of us get lost in this world of like noise and email and Facebook and all this other stuff that we forget to pick up the phone and just reach out to somebody. So my current plan is 3 lunches a week and 2 dinners a week.
3 lunches and 2 dinners. And do you have any number of phone calls that you make every day that are just personal calls and personal touches?
Probably between 5 and 10. I mean, it's maybe not as many as I should, but.
And here's a question, because some people will make a call and they just call and ask, who do you know that's better selling a house? How do your 10 or 20 calls a day go? Right? I'm with you. I love that face. I love you.
No.
So tell us how they go. This is fabulous. Right. This is so much fun.
I just wanted to check in with you. How did your kids' college applications go? I know you guys were really hoping for Stanford. Did it work out? Just the fact that you remember something about them, you're like 90 miles ahead of the game. It's either that or here's an email. Like, which do you think is going to be more powerful?
Exactly. So I want to say one thing to elaborate, because I think it's so relevant to kind of this whole picture you're drawing on keeping in touch. I would say for everybody listening and from my experience and to get your feedback, but I think you and I see exactly eye to eyes, focusing and not forgetting to focus. The most important is the relationships, and go, Seth O'Byrne says, go narrow and go deep with your relationships, like really hone in on who's important. And on the flip side, well, then why are we still doing emails and e-blasts and blah, blah, blah? For me, it's because those people, those core people that are sending me business, first of all that stuff helps get exposure to our listings and get them sold and do the marketing that they need. But the other thing it does is when those people we're spending that time on that are really, like, you could call them your secret sales force, your ambassadors, your greatest advocates, when they see that, it reminds them, because they're conscious of it. And when they refer you, I find they're proud to refer me because they know what everybody's going to pull as soon as they look, because everybody gets Googled first. And it makes it easy to refer you, and it makes it reassuring of, okay, this is what you're up to. This is who I'm referring. And they're kind of proud to, it's a way for our people who are referring us to showcase us besides the other things that it's doing for our business.
And they can also forward those emails. I mean, many times, my clients will forward an email and say, hey, here's the markets that he works in, or, here's who he is. I've got my Evoker video tagged to all my emails so people can really see and learn a lot about me. And I know that Tom Ferry was talking about how people will really Google the heck out of you before they'll pick up the phone to call you. So I want there to be as much good content out there about me as I can.
And they're Googling you and a couple of other people. Right.
Sorry?
They're Googling you and oftentimes a couple of other people.
Sure.
So, well, thank you. I think that really, is there anything we're leaving off on marketing? Agents, email, events, direct touches, your mailing campaign.
Yeah. The other thing that I would say is, marketing is designed to bring clients in the door, right? To make the phone ring, to make the email responded to, et cetera. But I think that a lot of us lose sight of the fact that, like I said, most of our business comes from our top 10, our top 15, 20 people. And then I would also challenge all of us, including myself, like, how intentional are we being about letting people know that we're open for business? So I have really challenged myself that when I'm a hero, and to me, this is the right time to ask, once I've been a hero for somebody, that's when I want to ask for a referral. So a very common thing for me is, we just got that contract ratified on your property. We're so excited for you. You've been amazing. You've been patient, and you helped us wait till the right buyer came along. I wish all of my clients were like you. So I pay a personal compliment to them over how they've been in the transaction. And then I said, if you know anyone else in the building, or if any of you, and I will pick one, I'm giving you different examples. Anybody else that, is as kind and caring as you, or, or if any of the other partners at your law firm are looking for competent real estate advice, I would love the opportunity to take care of them for you, is how I end it.
And it's about amazing. You. It's about the other person.
I say something like that, and then you can't see my watch, but I look at my watch and I'm like, how long is it going to be until that phone rings?
Oh my God. Now that's you putting you into it. I got this thing about be you. I don't know if I could pull that off, but I love it. But like, get yourself in there. I love that.
Because I think a lot of us, we're afraid to ask, and we just assume that everybody knows that they should be standing in traffic to get us business. Well, guess what? They don't. They don't think about us every day. No,
and I'm going to add to that, because I'm thinking about, there've been situations where people have, people have really wanted to engage with me and thought they were going to put their house on the market. And then they're like, it didn't work out. Now they feel bad because I had kind of started the process, but now they're not going to sell, and they feel terrible, which they shouldn't, first of all, because I absolutely, no one owes us anything. And I don't mean that but like, there's no obligation for anyone to hire you ever. But that's also another opportunity that I always take to never. There's so many agents out there who unfortunately see the world as obligated to give them business. But we're hired not for time.
Oh yeah, well that's value. How I got a referral.
If somebody doesn't want to sell their house, then we offer no value. We're not going to get paid. But what was about your referral? Go on.
That's exactly what happened. I have longtime clients. They're in a house that I sold them.
I remember this story. Yeah,
something bigger. We were out looking at houses. They actually found it. Surprise. I walked through there with them, and then I not walked back to their house, but we went back to their current home. I walked through that. We discussed an offer on the new home and what it would take to get their current home sold and what it would sell for. And they called me the next day and they said, we've really decided this is not the right time for us, and that, admittedly, it was disappointing. It would have been probably $4.7 million worth of business. But what am I going to do? Take it out on them? Like, this is about me.
That happens often in our business.
I know. Well, I've grown
which
past
takes
that.
away from the credibility of our occupation.
So I used that opportunity. They said, thank you so much for your advice. We really appreciate everything that you've said. And that's when I used the opportunity. I was a hero in the moment.
Exactly.
I said, look, I want what's right for you. If this is not the right time or the right house, we'll find it, or the time will be better another time. I'll still be here. I appreciate the opportunity to be of service to you. And by the way, if there's anybody that that would use or could appreciate this type of competent real estate advice that I've helped you with, I'd love to take great care of them for you. And tick, like 2 days later.
I love the for you. I love the for you. I'd love to do that for you.
2 days later.
What we offer them. Yeah, go ahead.
Jeff, we'd like you to meet so-and-so and so-and-so.
2 days?
In Virginia, 2 days. We'd like you to meet so-and-so and so-and-so. They're living in Virginia. They want to move into the district. They have a home to sell, and then they need to buy another one. Take it from here. And sure enough, I've got a new client. So, I always, not always, but I'm getting much more clear about asking. Much more clear.
What makes you, and then we're going to wrap this up because you got to go. What makes it clear from what you used to do and what you do now? What's the difference?
Well, before I used to be like, oh, I'm so glad I could help. Whenever you're ready to start this process again, let's do that. I mean, maybe in the beginning of my career, I'm like, what? You're not doing this? And I might have ruined that relationship. No longer,
Right.
And I would say the middle part would be like, I would just say, okay, when you're ready again, let's do it. And now this new version of me is, okay, no problem. When you're ready again, let's do it. And if you know anybody that would appreciate the type of competent real estate advice that I've given you, I would love to take great care of them for you. You're giving them a target. Yeah. Just letting this kind of assumption go by that oh, I'm just, too busy.
I'm just hanging out until you
Exactly.
Yeah.
I made more money than I could possibly spend this last year, so I couldn't possibly take another client. So don't even bother thinking of me.
It doesn't really matter. Yes, it does. So you've got to get to your showing. Before we let you go, is there one, and you may have just given it to us, before we let you go, to make sure we didn't miss any good stuff from you, is there one last thing, or how about this? This is what I want to ask you. What is the one thing we all need to remember from this interview? If there's just one, because there's lots.
I would say you, as an agent or even just as a person, need to be of value. If people do not find value in their interaction with you, then you have no value. And people will transact with and will befriend people of value.
Love it.